Namaskaraha and welcome to our next session on the yogic life. So before we start reading our pravachan, what is this world? I wanted to say something, a few words about bhakti, right? So bhakti is something that we are all very familiar with. What is bhakti? But the question is, do we understand what the true meaning of bhakti is? Right? Am I truly a bhakta? There is a question, right? So many of us, we live under the illusion that we are bhaktas, but are we bhaktas in the true sense, right? So just because we think we are bhaktas, is that enough, right? We can actually test ourselves to see if we are really bhaktas or not. Do we have that vastarika bhakti or not? So if you discover this truth at the end of your life, then you cannot do anything, right? It cannot be fixed, because in the last minute you are used to your own ways of life, and then every human being is used to his own way of life. So in the last minute, at the end of one's life, this issue cannot be fixed, right? At that point in time, at the end of your life, if you test you're a bhakta or not, then it's too late. You cannot do anything, right? So it is the right time to know that, do I have the bhakti for the divine entity or not? So there is no external judge or a court or a committee that can actually evaluate this. So this is actually purely a self-test. So I can actually ask myself, and everybody can ask themselves. There is no need for any third person. So this is purely a personal experiment for spiritual liberation, right? Am I a real bhakta, right? So when you know the answer to this question, then what happens? Your progress you will get better progress spiritually. You will advance on a much faster pace, right? So what is bhakti? Bhakti is the true love for Paramapurusha. It is the prema bhava for Paramapurusha. Bhakti prema swarupini, right? So for a bhakta, bhakti is prema personified. That is the spirit of bhakti is the spirit of prema. It is having the true love for Paramapurusha without expecting anything. So you're loving Paramapurusha because you just want to please him. You don't want anything in return. You're not asking for anything. You're not asking for happiness. You're not asking for anything. You just want to please Paramapurusha. That is bhakti. So how do we measure our bhakti, right? How can we measure our love for Paramapurusha, right? Yeah, I say I have love for Paramapurusha. Do I really have love for Paramapurusha? How can a sadhaka introspect and understand how much I love Paramapurusha, right? So the answer to that question is, where you have this I, there Paramapurusha is not there. Where Paramapurusha is there this I is not there, right? So that is the key. So when you have this I, when you have the components of the mind, right? When you have this I feeling, when you have this ahankara, when you have the ahambhava, when you have all of that, there Paramapurusha is not there. Where Paramapurusha is there is no I bhava at all. So the devotion is a prerequisite for doing sadhana. Without devotion, you cannot do sadhana. So maturity of devotion is love, and maturity of love is Paramapurusha. When your devotion matures, that is love, and the maturity of love is Paramapurusha. So what we have to understand is that the human mind is actually one, right? The human mind is one, and in the human mind, if you have egoistic desires, right, then there cannot be love for Paramapurusha. Egoistic desires cannot coexist with love for Paramapurusha. It is either I or Paramapurusha. It is either I or he. Both of them cannot coexist. You say, actually this is actually the determining factor in assessing the level of bhakti. Suppose if you think that you want to become a leader of a state or a nation, right? And I also love Paramapurusha. So if you have these kind of thoughts in your mind, that I want to become this, and I also love Paramapurusha, so anyone who is thinking like this is not a true bhakta, because mind is one. Their egoistic desire of wishing to become a great leader is more than their love for Paramapurusha. So in such a person's heart there is no true bhakti. Likewise, if the mind is dominated by any other similar desire, like I want to become a millionaire, I want more money, I want to get married, I want to get my job, I want to get a better job, I want post, I want prestige, I want fame, I want to have a vacation, I want my children to get settled, I want my son to get married, I want my daughter to complete her education, whatever the desire may be, right? So whatever that desire is becoming, is dominant to an extent where one person will not be a bhakta. When the desire is dominant, that person will not be a true bhakta. So where you have the the egoistic desires, there Paramapurusha is not there, because mind is one. They cannot coexist. When you have the love for Paramapurusha, then you don't have any other desire. You're basically, you don't have any egoistic desires. All that you have is only the love for Paramapurusha in your mind, and it is single, right? Because mind is one, you cannot have multiple things. So when you have only the desire for Paramapurusha, then that is true bhakti. When the I is dominant, then Paramapurusha is not. So essentially that is how it works. The I and he cannot coexist, as the human mind is one. So what happens is that one is imposing the egoistic desires over the desire for Paramapurusha. So this actually does not mean that one should give up everything in the world, such as a job, house, family, and live in a cave, right? It's not like that. We have to live in this world. We have to live in this world in service to Paramapurusha. I should continue doing my duty, doing my job, serving my family, everything as a service to Paramapurusha, not in pursuit of one's own petty desires. This is what is required, right? So you're doing the necessary adjustments so that you're not forgetting Paramapurusha. Everything you're doing in service to Paramapurusha, it is keeping Paramapurusha as a supreme object, a supreme subject in all one does, right? The I feeling should never, the I feeling of the ego should never dominate, right? So the real bhaktas have only one desire in their mind, regardless of whatever they are doing, whatever work they may be doing. The only desire they have in their mind is, I want to please Paramapurusha. That is the singular motivation and internal longing they have. Any other desire becomes subsidiary, right? And it just merely, any other desire merely diminishes, right? And that is the state of true bhakti. All the other desires diminishes, and only the love for Paramapurusha, only love for one, not two or many, right? So you cannot simultaneously have love for Paramapurusha and also love for a post or a position or money or whatnot, right? Longing is one, and a person will naturally long for what they love the most, right? So if you love Paramapurusha, then you will not love anything else. For instance, if you're having love for other things, if you're having love for food, if you're having love for money, or anything that may be, any material object, then that means you don't have true bhakti for Paramapurusha. So this is very, very important, and we have to reflect on this, right? Do I have one desire? How many desires do I have other than my love for Paramapurusha? If I have many desires, then I am not a true bhakta. A true bhakta will have only one desire, and that desire is for Paramapurusha, that love for Paramapurusha. One cannot love two things to an extreme degree, only one thing, right? That some actually confuse that they can have strong love for many objects, but that is not true, right? So if you have to have the highest love for Paramapurusha, then you will not have love for anything else, right? So bhakti is very, very important, and all of us can judge. No, we don't need any external agent to judge whether we are bhaktas or not. We can judge by ourselves. What is my level of bhakti, right? Do I have this extreme love for Paramapurusha, or do I actually love other things also? I love food, I love my children, I love my family, I love my husband, I love my this, whatever that may be, I love job, whatever that may be, then that means they are still progressing in the path of bhakti. They haven't become a true bhakta. So what we should do is, in order to lead a peaceful and a happy life, one should cultivate more and more and more your bhakti. That, right, when you have more and more bhakti, then automatically you'll feel contented, you'll be at peace, right? You'll be at peace. So we should always ask sincerely, do I love Paramapurusha or I love something else, money, name or fame? Then we will know what our true status is, right? We should ask Paramapurusha. We should never miss the opportunity of asking Paramapurusha to give us more and more and more and more bhakti, right? If we have to ask one thing from Paramapurusha, then it is not money or wealth or this or that, but only one thing that we should ask is to give us more and more bhakti, and by his grace, then our human life will be bestowed with this unique opportunity to come close to Paramapurusha. Right? We have all been through many animal lives, and day by day we are actually, in fact, all of us are speeding towards death. Right? Life is very uncertain. We never know when which will be our last day. But we never live like that. We always think that, I'm going to live forever. That is how we think and we plan our lives, right? Always we think about, what I'm going to do 10 years from now, or what I'm going to do tomorrow. So we always plan for tomorrow, but we never know that, whether we'll have a tomorrow or not. Therefore, Shiva has also said that Vartamaneshu Varteta. Just live in the present, right? Live in the present. And, we should be practical and sincere in advancing along the path of bhakti, right? Am I longing for Paramapurusha or something else, right? One's attraction for that Paramapurusha, for that infinite entity, is actually called bhaktihi or prema. Bhaktihi prema swarupini. For a bhakta, the love for Paramapurusha is everything. They have nothing else. So that is what I wanted to cover with regards to bhakti today. And we can actually go to our the pravachan that we were actually covering over here. So what is this world, right? So we have said that Brahma has two components, Prakriti and Purusha, right? So we started out with saying that Brahma is the supreme multiple of multiplicities of unit consciousness. So Brahma is the multiple of all those unit consciousnesses which have manifested, and also those unit consciousnesses which are in the potential form. So that is what is Brahma. And also we started with a question: did the unit consciousnesses exist before Brahma, or Brahma himself multiplied into these infinite unit consciousnesses? So we started with that, and then we said that Brahma is non-causal. Brahma is anadi ananta satta. The same way the unit consciousness is also non-causal, right? So every human being, we have an atma, we have a unit consciousness. So the question is that the human beings are causeless, right? They are not causeless. Human beings have a cause, right? Human beings have a cause, but the unit consciousness doesn't have a cause. So we can see that the human beings were not the first beings on the earth, right? So first the sun, there was the sun. The sun actually cooled down, and it became that the earth was filled with water. Then slowly when the water cooled down, and then land appeared, and then there was the formation of plants and animal kingdom, and then finally only the human beings evolved. Therefore the human beings actually depend on the earth for their origin. So they are not they are not without a cause. They are karana rahitaha nasti. They are not without a cause. But the atma, the unit consciousness, is causeless, right? So that we saw that, and we said that in the process of the creation, Brahma reflected itself as these unit consciousness. So that is why we are saying Brahma is the multiple of all the unit consciousnesses, right? So in the Shristi Chakra, first the Akasha came, from Akasha Vayu came, and then from Vayu Agni came, from Agni water, and then from water the earth came, and then the human beings came, right? So the Paramapurusha himself, the Brahma, manifested itself in the form of Akasha. So Akasha is nothing but Paramapurusha, right? Akasha is nothing but Paramapurusha. So the earth obtained the consciousness from Akasha, and human beings obtained the consciousness from earth, right? So the origin of ultimately the origin is in Brahma, and Akasha obtained that consciousness from Brahma, right? There is nothing else in Akasha. Akasha is basically nothingness or voidness, but even though it has nothing, but the sound waves actually travel in them, and that is why Akasha is considered as crude, right? So we said that Brahma is the only is the cause of this creation, right? The cause of this creation, everything, every living being, everything that we see in this Jagat, and the cause of that is Brahma alone. And we said Saguna Brahma is the cause of this creation. This whole world originated from Saguna Brahma, right? So the question is, how did Saguna Brahma create this world? What is the material that Saguna Brahma used to create this world? So if a potter is making a pot, then he needs clay to make the pot, right? So like that, how did Saguna Brahma create this universe? So initially Brahma, there was only Prakriti and Purusha, nothing besides Prakriti and Purusha. So Saguna Brahma could not have obtained the material from somewhere else, right? Because nothing existed before Brahma, right? So the only material out of which this creation is made is Brahma itself, is its own self. It has to be accepted like that the material is also Brahma. That is why we say that Purusha is the Upadana Karanam, is the material cause of this world. Upadana Karanam. Purusha is the Upadana Karanam, and Prakriti is the secondary cause. Prakriti is a secondary Upadana Karanam, and Brahma is also the Nimitta Karanam. He is also the Nimitta Karanam for this world. So we said Brahma is a collective name for Prakriti and Purusha, right? So how was this world created? Was it created from Prakriti or Purusha? He said this world was created from Purusha and not Prakriti. If Prakriti created this world, right, so she is a unique force, right? So she can only give a shape to something, give a shape and form to something, right? And she, because being the unique force, she cannot take the shape of something, right? So Prakriti did not create this universe. It is only Purusha that created this universe, and Purusha took the shape of this world, and Prakriti basically is a force that gave the shape to Purusha. So it was with the help of Prakriti that Purusha assumed the shape of this world. Everything in this world that is made of just Purusha. Purusha is the only samagri that out of which this world is being made. So everything that we see in front of us, from all the beings, all the the brick, the wood, everything is made of just of Purusha. But the level of consciousness varies from between objects, depending on how crude that object is, right? For instance, if we are looking at a stone, right, the stone is very, very crude. It doesn't look like it has consciousness, but even then it is made of consciousness. So in the process of the Srishti, what happens is that the consciousness is actually modified into these various objects, and depending on the number of tanmatras they have, they become crude. They become very crude. So they become crude to such a point that it feels like that they are basically inanimate, lifeless. But actually that is also, like, even a stone is made of Purusha. So actually nothing in this world is crude. So everything is a metamorphosed metamorphosed form of Purusha only, right? So then also we said that Purusha is a very is a subtle entity. This whole universe is very crude. This universe looks very crude, but Purusha is a very subtle entity. Only thing that anything which is crude is what we can actually see with our senses. Purusha is very subtle, so we cannot see with our senses. So this Jagat is very crude, right? So in the Shristi Chakra, when the gunas of the Prakriti impact Purusha, what happens is that Purusha takes the crudest form in the form of Kshiti Tattva, in the form of earth, or in the form of Prithvi, right? In the form of the Kshiti Tattva, that object is very crude. It is very completely dormant. It looks like it doesn't have consciousness, but that also is made of Purusha. So because of the impact of the gunas of the Prakriti, the Purusha takes the crudest form, right? So we talked until there. So now we will continue further. So Pushpala Bhagini, do you want to read further?
The universe has been created out of Purusha. In other words, Purusha, when qualified by the guna of Prakriti, has created the universe out of his own self. Purusha, we know, is a subtle entity which can be appreciated only as an idea. Yet the moon, the sun, the stars and the planets, the atmosphere and the earth, made of subtle Purusha, are all found in this creation. We have to admit that this creation has been formed by a subtle entity gradually becoming crude. We have already established by logical reasoning that Purusha is subtle. So if the crude universe has been created out of this subtle entity, its seed must have existed in the subtle entity, and on being qualified by Prakriti, germinated into this expansive universe. In the same way, we get butter from milk only because it existed in milk in another form. If the seed of the crude universe existed in him, Purusha could not be subtle or understandable only as an idea. Subtle is something which can be understood or appreciated as an idea only and contains no crudeness. The ethereal factor in which no perceivable crude substance can be found is called crude because sound can travel through it. The ethereal factor has no dimensions and no perceptible existence. Yet merely because of the presence of the quality of permitting sound waves to travel through it, it is called crude. The presence of something makes it identifiable. It cannot be said to be subtle or understandable only as an idea. Purusha cannot be said to be subtle if the seed of the universe exists in him. He has to be crude, but it has already been established that Purusha is subtle, and so the seed of the crude universe cannot exist in him. So this paragraph says that the universe has been created out of Purusha. That is, the Purusha, when qualified, as we know, by Prakriti, by the guna of, when qualified by the guna of Prakriti, has created the universe or has been metamorphized into various creations. There's a blank screen actually.
Can you see now?
Now I can. Now we can find that this earth is made of the subtle Purusha, and this moon, sun, stars and atmosphere, everything has been made from the subtle Purusha. We have to admit that this creation has been, that is, now this creation has come from the subtle Purusha, but it is also crude. That means the seed of this, the creation, should exist in this subtle entity, and on being qualified by Prakriti, has germinated into this expansive universe, and it has given way to the various creations. If the seed of fruit exists in him, like the butter is formed out of milk, which means the butter is existing in this milk itself. Similarly, the seed of the creation, or the seed, or as which has been manifested into various creations, must exist in the subtle Purusha. Purusha cannot be called subtle or understandable only. I mean, if the seed of the crude universe existed in him, Purusha could not be called subtle or an understandable only as an idea, because we see that everything which is subtle can be understandable as an idea only, but it is not so. The ethereal factor, in which no which is there which no perceivable crude substance can be found, is called crude, because sound can travel through it. The ethereal factor has no dimensions and no perceptible existence, but it is crude because sound waves are allowed to travel or traveling through it. The presence of something makes it identifiable. So we now have the existence of the ethereal factor. It cannot be said to be subtle or understandable as an idea. Purusha also cannot be said to be subtle if the seed of the universe exists in him. So since it is Purusha is said to be subtle, we now see that the seed of the universe cannot exist in him. So now we have to see where the creation of the seed of the universe exists. So that's what the above paragraph says.
Thank you, Bagni. So nicely said. Thank you. Yeah. So, okay. So, for understanding this paragraph, one thing we have to understand is what is the definition of crude and what is subtle. That needs to be understood very, very clearly, right? So, that which admits the conveyance of tanmatras is called crude. So, there are basically 5 tanmatras: Shabda tanmatra, Sparsha tanmatra, Rupa tanmatra, Gandha tanmatra, Rasa tanmatra. So, there are 5 tanmatras. And a cruder thing will have more tanmatras. Something which is very, very crude will have more tanmatras. So akasha will permit the shabda tanmatra. Then when you look at vayu, it will permit the shabda tanmatra and the sparsha tanmatra. Therefore, compared to akasha, vayu is more crude. Then agnihi, when you look at agnihi, it conveys 3 tanmatras: shabda tanmatra, sparsha tanmatra, and rupa tanmatra, right? So therefore this agni is more crude compared to akasha and vayu. Then when you look at the rasa, when you look at jalam, right? When you look at jalam, water, it conveys 4 tanmatras. It conveys the shabda tanmatra, sparsha tanmatra, rupa tanmatra, and also rasa tanmatra. Therefore the water is more crude compared to the other elements. Then when we look at prithvi, right, when we look at the prithvi, it conveys 5 tanmatras, right? It also conveys the gandha tanmatra in addition to all the other tanmatras. Therefore we can say that the Prithvi is actually more crude compared to the other elements. Prithvi is the crudest compared to the other elements. Like Prithvi is crude compared to the Akasha, compared to Vayu, compared to Agni, compared to Jalam. So that is why we say the Kshiti Tattva is the crudest. So in the Kshiti Tattva, consciousness is completely dormant because it is very, very crude. So when we understand the difference between the crude and the subtle is something. Paramapurusha is subtle because Paramapurusha does not convey any of the tanmatras. So that is what we have been saying so far. So in this paragraph, so we are saying that this Paramapurusha is very, very subtle, but when we look at this universe in front of us, that is very, very crude. We can actually see the universe with our senses, but Paramapurusha is something that is very, very subtle. We cannot see Paramapurusha through our senses. So the question is, if this universe, this Paridrishyamanam Jagat, which is in front of us, is crude, then, and the cause of that crude Jagat is Paramapurusha, is Brahma, which is very, very subtle. So how is that possible? If something is crude, then the Karanam also should be crude, right? The seed of that crudeness should be there in Brahma. The seed of the crudeness is in Brahma. Then how can we say that Brahma is subtle, right? How can we say that Brahma is subtle? If the seed of that crudeness exists in Brahma, then there seems to be a contradiction which needs to be resolved, right? So the Purusha is the original ingredient out of which everything has been created, and Purusha does not convey any tanmatras, and therefore Purusha is subtle. But we can see that which admits the conveyance of tanmatras, and that is crude, right? This Jagat admits the conveyance of tanmatras, and this Jagat has come from that, emerged out of that Purusha. Just like when we say that butter, right? Butter is in milk, therefore if we have to get butter from milk, that seed of that must have been present in milk. If the butter is not present in milk, how can we get butter from milk? Same way, if crudeness is not present in Purusha, how can we get this crudeness in this world, right? Therefore this crudeness, or the seed of this crudeness, the ability to convey the tanmatras should be present in Purusha. So we are getting a contradiction over here. So that means to say, are we saying that Purusha is actually crude, not subtle, right? So far we have concluded that Purusha is subtle, and now we are saying that the seed of the crudeness should be in Purusha. So then there seems to be a contradiction, and that needs to be resolved, and that we will resolve in the following paragraph. Okay. One second, Bhagni. Actually the power has gone here. Just 1 second. Do you by any chance have the Karapatram in front of you, Bhagini, to read the next one? I'm not able to project it because of the lack of power. Pushpalata Bhagini? Hello?
1 minute. Which page we were actually in?
Okay. Wait. Yeah. I'm trying to log in. It's kind of slow. Just bear with me. I'll try to project it.
No. Anyway, I have it in front of me. I'm also seeing the paragraph.
Okay, it is on page 4, first, the beginning.
4. Yes. Yes, I got it.
Okay.
So now this world only now I have taken this.
Here again, a contradictory situation arises.
Ah, yes, yes. Ah, Here again, a contradictory situation arises. It was said earlier that the universe has been created out of Purusha, but if the seed did not exist in Purusha, how could the universe have been created? This sounds illogical and unreasonable, and the only logical thing to say is that the universe was never created as Purusha in is subtle by nature, and the crude universe could not have been created out of him. It was, however, said earlier that the universe was created out of him, and as it has been logically proved to be true, the only other rational statement would be to say that the crude universe was never a created reality. Yet the existence of this visible universe cannot be ignored. In fact, this crude universe is created only as a thought projection of Purusha. When influenced by Prakriti, a wave arises in the mind of Purusha, and as a result, the entire creation becomes an imaginary entity filled with different forms. The universe comes into being only as an imaginary entity in the mind of Purusha, and no crude stuff is required for its creation. Imaginary objects are not crude realities, for the creation of which crude stuff may be necessary. Hence, Purusha, who is subtle, can easily create the universe out of its own self. So now, we said there should have been a seed of uh, uh, creation should have existed in Purusha, but Purusha being a subtle, this one, the seed cannot exist in him. So now, seed of the crude in universe cannot exist in, has been said in the previous paragraph. Now, can see from this paragraph we see there is a contradictory situation which arises. So now we said that the universe has been created out of Purusha, and for this creation a seed is necessary, and that should have existed in Purusha, which cannot, because we say that Purusha is a subtle entity. So now this sounds, so now that is illogical and unreasonable, this one. And so because without the creation would not have been created, without allowing the sound waves or anything, without allowing any tanmatras to pass through the Purusha, and this is not possible because Purusha is not crude and it is subtle. So now we find that the existence of this visible universe has been done only as an imaginary entity. It has come out as an imaginary entity with different forms, filled with different forms. So the universe comes actually as an being into being, as an imaginary entity only, filled with different forms, and this is done, this has come from the mind of Purusha with the uh, help of Prakriti, and no crude stuff is required. So imaginary objects do not are not crude realities, for the creation of which crude stuff is may be necessary. Hence, the Purusha, which is subtle, can easily create the universe out of its own self, being in a subtle form. Accepting the creation to be only a thought wave gives rise to the following doubts. Okay, that is the next paragraph actually. So now we now see
Bhagini,
that
But
Ah,
let me clarify a little bit on this paragraph, then
yes.
you can read the next
That's
paragraph.
what. No, no. I just want to summarize that
Yeah.
it is only the universe has been created by the Purusha from his own self. Okay.
Mhm.
This paragraph says that.
Yes, Bhagini. Nicely said. Thank you. Yeah, that is what is the idea here, right? So, when human being goes to sleep at night and they have a dream, right? Then they imagine like all kinds of things, and those things seem real during the dream. But then those things are all actually just imagined things, and they realize this fact when they actually wake up in the morning, right? As long as they are experiencing the dream, everything seems real, but when they get up in the morning, then they realize, oh, I actually had a dream, and whatever I imagined, whatever I saw in the dream, they were all just imagination. So the cosmic purusha, right? The cosmic purusha has a mind, has a cosmic mind, and that is inspired by the influence of prakriti to create all these imaginary entities with different shapes and forms. Then then it means that all of us are also within that cosmic imagination, right? All of us are also within that cosmic imagination, and that appears quite real, right? We cannot say that it is not. It appears very very real, right? So so what uh, so then the contradiction that we had is actually resolved. We said that how can this crude universe, how can Brahma be the karana for this crude universe if the seed of crudeness did not exist in Brahma? We are saying Brahma is subtle, so there is a contradiction. And how we can resolve this contradiction? The contradiction is resolved by saying that the seed of crudeness does not exist in Brahma. Brahma is real. Brahma is subtle. He's not crude. But this paridrishyamanam jagat, this world, everything is happening as a mental wave in the mind of Paramapurusha. So everything is actually just an imagination, and it's because of the influence of Prakriti, the an imagination, a mental wave is created in the Brahma's mind, in the Paramapurusha's mind, and as a result, an imaginary entity is created with different shapes and forms, right? So for creating this imaginary entity, you don't need any crude material, or you don't need any crude stuff. So all these objects, these paridrishyamanam jagat, everything is actually, it's not it is not a crude reality, but it is for which you need crude stuff, and the seed of which had to be in Brahma. So you don't need the seed to be in Brahma, because all of this is not crude reality, but it is only an imagination in the mind of Paramapurusha. Paramapurusha is subtle, and so he can easily create this universe, and he doesn't need any crude stuff to create this universe, and he created this universe out of himself, right? So that is what we said. So can you continue with the next paragraph, Bhagini?
Ah, ah, Bhagini.
Hmm.
Oh, accepting the creation to be only a thought which gives the which gives
Only
rise to
thought
the following doubts. Okay.
thought wave.
Okay. How do we experience the world as real if it is not a crude reality and exists only as thought projection of Purusha? The creation should come to an end the moment the thought wave of Purusha ceased to exist. Thought waves or imaginary entities are only monetary, and their cessation should bring about complete annihilation. The next paragraph also I'll read off. Then, when imagination brings a shape into being in a person's mind, it does not appear to be an imagination only. It is mind that imagines, and as long as a person is under the spell of imagination, every imagined object appears to be real. It is after the spell is broken that he or she realizes it to be his or her imagination only. So now, accepting this creation is only a thought wave process gives rise to the following doubts. Now, if it is only a that is imagination, that imagination is only momentary, and it will come to an end. And the cessation should bring about a complete, what is that, annihilation? What is that word? I don't follow that word. That is, as we say, when you are sleep and you get into dreams, once you wake up, the imagination or the dreams go off. Similarly, if this universe is an imagination, it will go off. It is momentary and it will go off, but it does not appear to be imagination because it is not momentary and it is continuing to exist. So that imagination is only the mind, and once the mind and as long as in this, I mean, the person is in the spell of imagination, that imagination object appears to be real. So it is not imagination, it appears to be real, and this spell is broken only when he or she realizes that it is only imagination. It is her or her imagination, and it is not real. It is not. I mean, it is not real. So till then, that reality exists actually. So it is on the mind. The reality exists. That's what this para says.
Yes, Bhagini. Yes. So yeah, as you said, annihilation means destruction. It means complete destruction. So we concluded in the previous paragraph that this whole Shristi is only a thought projection of Paramapurusha, right? So if this whole Shristi is only a thought projection of Paramapurusha, then this Shristi should end the moment the thought wave of Paramapurusha ends. The Shristi also should end, right? So because every entity in this Shristi, they are all imaginary entities. They arise because of the thought projection of Paramapurusha, and they should all cease to exist the moment the thought wave of Paramapurusha ends, right? That is one question. And so when imagination brings a shape into being in a person's mind, so for instance, when we have an imagination, that does not appear as imagination as long as we are under the spell of imagination, right? Everything appears to be real. Just like how I was saying that about a dream. When we are having at night, when we sleep and have a dream, in the dream whatever object appears, everything appears real. As long as we are under the spell of the dream, everything appears real, and then only when we wake up in the morning we realize that it was a dream. Similarly, even though the various entities are only in the thought projection of Paramapurusha, even then they appear real, right? They appear real until the spell is broken, right? So the only when somebody realizes that everything is this imagination, until that everything appears very, very real. So that is actually the idea over here, right? So our existence is a microcosm of the cosmic existence, which is to say that the Paramapurusha also has a mind, right? So when imagination brings a shape into a person's mind, it does not appear to be an imagination. It is the mind that it is, as long as the person is under the spell of imagination, every imagined object appears to be real. So right, so even in the human experience, right, even in experience, so when we are under the spell of imagination, it appears to be real, and when that spell breaks, then only we realize that, oh, it was actually a dream, or it was, I was just imagining something. It is actually not the case. So when we are so engrossed in imagination, this is what actually happens, is that it appears to be real, and then only when we come out of the spell, we can understand that it was a dream or it was an imagination. So that is what this paragraph is actually talking about. So, okay. Okay, take the next one also, Bhagini.
Bhagini. Let us now analyze imagination and see how an imagined object appears real in the imagination. In an earlier chapter, it was explained that the part of the mind which performs all actions is aham tattva, ego, and the part of mind which shows or becomes the result of an action is called chitta. For example, when aham tattva sees a book, the chitta grasps the tanmatra of a book and has to take the shape of the book itself. Similarly, when a person imagines a form, the aham tattva starts functioning and chitta has to take the form to enable the aham tattva to see it. For example, Rama, sitting in Prayag and thinking of Chandni Chowk in Delhi, makes his aham tattva think of Chandni Chowk, and his chitta has to take the form of Chandni Chowk. At that very moment, his aham tattva starts seeing Chandni Chowk in his imagination. So, we are now analyze how this imagination helps and how the imagined object appears real in the imagination. In this is done, as we have seen in the earlier chapters, that aham tattva and that is the part of the mind which performs all actions is aham tattva, and the part of mind which shows and becomes the result of the action is called chitta. For instance, if we see a book, the chitta takes the form of the book and the aham tattva takes the action of reading the book. Similarly, for example, a person who is in Prayag thinks about a place in Delhi. He starts his mind takes the form of imagining the Chandni Chowk, and now the Chandni Chowk appears to him of Delhi appears to him in his imagination, and so the chitta takes that form of and makes aham tattva think of that Chandni Chowk, even if he is in Prayag. So that is how this explained. This is what is explained.
Yes, Bhagini. Yeah. So this paragraph is explaining about how this process of imagination works, right? So when we are imagining something, it appears real. Like for instance, when somebody sees a book, right? A human being can see a book in two ways. One is that they can get the visual information of the book, which is to say the rupa tanmatra of the book is obtained by the eyes, and then the light is being reflected off the book. It reaches the eye, and then the visual information is carried by the optic nerve. Carried by the optic nerve goes to the chitta, right? And the chitta takes the shape of the book, and aham tattva sees that book. So that is one way in which we can see a book. Another way is in the faculty of memory, in the faculty of imagination, that after having seen a book in the past, so one knows how a book looks like, and then one can conjure up that image in one's mind. So essentially there are two ways in which you can see a book. One is directly pratyaksha, the book is in front of us and we are seeing it. The other is that you already saw the book in the past, and then now you're imagining that book using the faculty of memory, imagining the book in the mind, right? So aham tattva can call upon chitta also to take the form of a book, right? Aham tattva can ask the chitta to capture the see the book which is outside of the eyes, or it can also ask the chitta to take the shape of the book using the memory faculty. So that is what is being expressed over here. So Ram is actually sitting in Prayag without actually going to Delhi. He is seeing Chandani Chowk in Delhi, right? So how does this happen is that aham tattva calls upon the chitta to see Chandani Chowk in Delhi. So when aham tattva asks chitta to see Chandani Chowk in Delhi, how does that happen? How does the chitta take the shape of Chandani Chowk? The Chandani Chowk is not in front because Rama is sitting in Prayag, right? So how does he take the shape? How does the chitta take the shape of the Chandani Chowk is what will be explained in the following paragraph. How this process of imagination actually works, right? When we actually see an object which is outside, then the chitta, there's an interaction between the chitta and the senses. The senses interact with the external object. Senses get the tanmatra from the object, and then it passes on the tanmatra to chitta, and chitta takes the shape of the book. So that is how it works. So all the senses are involved here, right, for the perception to happen. But in the case of imagination, what is the process? How does the chitta take the shape of the object in the imagination? That needs to be seen, and that will be discussed in the following paragraph, which will take it up in the next class.
Bhagini.
Okay. Any questions, Bhagini?
No. I understood, and it is coming out nicely. So I also write down when you tell me. So
okay.
I keep having this one. Bhagini, actually, I'm going on a tour on Wednesday.
Yeah, one second, Bhagini. Let me turn off the recording.
Yes,
okay. Astu tarhi. Okay. Thank you all, and we will see you all next week. Okay, just 1 second, Bhagini.